There is a lot to catch up on, so let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back. Well, I thought I would just sit down today and catch you all up on the last week or two. Actually, it feels like almost the last couple of months. This month has gone by so quick. We've had so much going on. So we just got back from my dad's funeral service and celebration of life. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, I had put a little blurb saying my dad passed away in March, which that still seems so weird to say, even when we were with other people and family and people he used to work with, like it just still doesn't seem real. And today, actually, the day that I am filming this is my dad's birthday. He would have been 84, which to some of you that may sound old, but to me, my dad just seemed like he was one of those people going to live to be 100. And I never really got into it a whole lot of like what happened or whatever, but my dad has Parkinson's and he had dementia, and that had been getting worse like the last year or so, and really the last 6 months, my mom said, because we had visited him a year ago after our last cruise, you guys might have remembered, our last weekend cruise, and for his birthday, and saw him then, and then went at Christmas. I could tell a big difference between last year at May and then at Christmas, and mom said, yeah, she could tell a big difference too. So anyway, though, my mom, I had said I visited her. If you follow me on my YouTube, like the little post, I think when I posted a video of something recent, I said, we were back from our weekend cruise with friends, which was May 1st. And then I went over to see my mom for a few days. And then my husband and I came home. We were literally home 5 days. And then my mom and her friend drove up here. So then we could drive to Indiana for the service and everything. So that's what we did. And it was nice spending a couple days with my mom in Florida because we went through a lot of pictures and tried to get some things together of like what we wanted to bring for the celebration of life, like get together with friends and family and stuff. So that was cool. Just reading like old newspaper articles of my dad when he was a police officer and different things, and going through a lot of his Navy things. That was neat, which by the way, I just have them right here because we just got home yesterday, and these were a couple of the pictures I brought. This is one of my dad's old Navy photos. My mom has this in a bigger one at her house, but I don't know. I always liked that one. And then this is one of the more recent ones of my mom and dad. Well, I wouldn't say recent. It's not recent. Sorry, there's a glare from the window. This is probably 25 years ago, maybe. So anyway, I know when I showed that wedding photo, a lot of you were like, oh, you look like your dad. And definitely when we were younger, I looked just like my dad. My brother looks like my mom and her side of the family. So anyway, so starting with the cruise, that video's up, cruise outfits. If you missed it, like I said, that was May 1st. That was a 4-night cruise. Went to see my mom a couple days, did things for her, hung up some blinds, and stayed there, went through the pictures, come up here. So it's kind of been a whirlwind, especially with her, like the last, basically since March to May, just taking care of all the things and coordinating with people. So we had a service at the cemetery. We weren't sure what we were gonna do, if it was like out where he grew up on a farm or all this, but so we decided they had a place to open up. Not that you guys need to know all this detail, but this was fresh on my mind. This is what's going on. I know I don't share a lot of personal stuff, so buckle up. So that was nice. There was like a new place to open, and it literally like looks right over to his parents where they're buried there. So we're like, that's perfect. That's where it's got to be. So that's where my mom and dad will both be someday. And there was a military honors, ceremony. So that was really great. And a Navy captain was there. And of course, somebody else helping him. And, they do the flag and all that, present my mom the flag and, give you the brass and stuff. So that was really neat to see. I had kind of seen them on TV and things like that, but never experienced a military ceremony. But my dad would have loved it, especially folding of the flag and stuff. And that was actually a nice memory because when I was young, we used to go to some place on vacation in Florida, and they had a flag out front, and they would raise and lower it. And somehow my dad and I just did it one day or a couple days, and he taught me how to fold an American flag then that way. So it was kind of neat as the two officers were sitting there folding the flag. It brought me back to that memory. It was kind of neat to see. So anyway, again, he would have loved that because he liked all the pomp and circumstance, of the military and things like that. He didn't retire from the military, but he was there, I think, 5 or 6 years, and he was in Vietnam. He actually qualified to be buried at Arlington. And we thought like a long time ago that's what we might do, like, back when you talk about stuff 20, 30 years ago. But, anymore, we were like, no, that probably doesn't make the best sense. So anyway, we went up there, got to see my brother and some family we hadn't seen, and actually my dad's cousin, who was the last surviving member of that family. So it was just my dad and his cousin. And I had heard her name over the years in stories. We got to meet her. She's 88. And her daughter. So that was cool. Just, meeting family you'd never met before. And some old friends and old people, my mom worked with, and there were like definitely probably 10 or 12 retired officers that my dad worked with. So my dad, if I hadn't mentioned before how they ended up in Florida, is when he retired from the police department. He was there like 25 years, I think, before he retired. They moved to Florida. And that was his goal. My mom was, obviously not ready to retire because they're 10 years apart or 9 years apart, sorry. And so she was going to work, my dad was going to work at a golf course, and that's what he did for like 30 years. He actually worked at the golf course even during COVID up until, I don't know. So 4 years ago was the last time they were at our house. That was my dad's 80th birthday. And he worked until like that year or the year before. And played golf. That was what he wanted to do. So it's kind of, been emotional. And then during that time, so when things, had kind of gotten a little rough the last few months, my mom had emergency surgery in January. That's kind of where all this took off, because she'll be 75 the end of this year, like in the fall. So she's doing good, but doesn't have as much energy and stuff like that. So anyway, that's kind of what, like, since the beginning of the year, there's been a lot going on. And actually the last couple of years, it just seems, like a big emotional kind of roller coaster with that. When just, your parents, are going through things, and they don't live here, because my brother lives in Indiana. So neither one of us live where they are. People always ask, if my mom's going to move back to Indiana or something. She has no plans. They've actually lived in their house they live in now for 31 years, which is longer than the house that my brother and I grew up in Indiana. So to her, Florida's home. People always ask if my husband and I are going to move back to Florida. It's like, no, we have no desire. Maybe a different area of Florida, but we don't have any desire to live in the area we used to live in. We've been in Alabama now. This summer will be 15 years, which is just crazy to us. We just can't even imagine. It maybe feels like 10 years, but it doesn't feel like 15. Yeah, in July, the end of July will be 15 years, but it feels like home. We like it. I did take some outfit photos, just kind of, snapped in the mirror, but I don't know that anything I have you can currently get. So for instance, like we went to dinner Thursday night, me, my husband, my mom, and her friend, which her friend, her husband passed away like 7 years ago, and my mom and dad and them were close with a whole group of them that were friends. So she knows my dad real well, and actually would visit, my dad and stuff when my mom was recouping from surgery. So they're close friends, not just my mom's friend, it was my dad too. Anyway, we went out to dinner. I wore the same pants like that I wore one day in Scotland. I'll try to find something similar, but I bought them like a year or two ago from Banana Republic. So just something casual, sat outside, had dinner. Friday service day, I wore a red, white, and blue dress because my dad loved red, white, and blue. We knew, it was the military honors. And that's why I asked my mom, I'm like, are we doing black, like dark colors? Or are we just wearing what we want? She's like, you just wear what you want. She actually wore like a blue and white dress too. And so I wore that red, white, and blue Farm Rio dress from a couple years ago. I hadn't worn it, and I just thought that was perfect. My dad would have loved that dress. My dad liked clothes too, so he always liked to look nice and appreciated like nice clothes. So I wore that, and then we just drove around later that day. Like we just left from lunch. Like after that, we went to lunch at one of my dad's places he liked. And it turns out it was funny because I've always heard the story that my mom and dad met at a bar. Bars back then were different. They're not really like now, but that's where they first saw each other. They didn't know each other, meet, but that's where they first saw each other. And then like a little bit later met again. But so we went there and had lunch. had a tenderloin sandwich in his honor. If you're from Indiana, you totally know about Indiana and tenderloin sandwiches. So we just kept on our clothes because it was getting later and drove around out like where my dad lived out of town a little bit, out on a farm, and showed my mom's friend like where we grew up. And then I think I just put on some shorts. Like they actually had storms there that night, tornado warnings. So we're all like hiding in the, well, not hiding, but like camped out in the hallways of the hotel, which I felt pretty safe there. And we're supposed to have storms again here. And then oddly enough, where my grandma lives in Kentucky, they had really bad storms there. She's fine. She wasn't able to come. My grandma's going to be like 90. Well, she just turned 93, I think. But anyway, so yeah, storms everywhere. And I just had on like shorts and a t-shirt. And then Saturday I did wear, but I don't know if I got any pictures other than like family photos outside. I wore that red, white, and blue shirt. So I knew I was going to wear that, and I wore it with some white jeans and my red Sam Edelman sandals. Wore that for Saturday for like the celebration of life, with family, and you just have like refreshments, and we brought a lot of pictures and everybody got to look at that, especially like the retired officers probably got a kick out of seeing older department photos and stuff. And then on Sunday we went to church, and this was the church I grew up in, and my brother still goes there, and I wore that, what was it? Oh, the J. Crew blue and yellow dress I bought last year. Sorry, the light is probably getting a little brighter right now. It's going in and out because like I said, we're supposed to get storms. That dress had the tie waist. Love it. I didn't end up, I don't think, other than just things like that, I don't think I got to wear it actually and photograph it, other than I photographed it at the house when I got it last year. But it was so pretty. Had my denim jacket. I ended up putting that on at lunch afterwards because it was a little chilly. And then it was just casual the rest of the day. We just kind of hung out, drove a little bit more around town, seeing the sights, showing my mom's friend things. Had a casual dinner that night. So not a lot of outfit sharing, but there were a few things. Like I said, if there's anything I can put pictures in here or link, I will. So my husband and I are looking forward to staying home for a while. He was actually supposed to maybe go on a work trip to West Palm in June, but it's like, yeah, let's stay home. So we probably aren't going anywhere maybe until July 4th weekend. We need to go see my in-laws. So the last couple of years, they've stopped driving, not driving, but traveling, I should say. They still drive. My mother-in-law's had some health issues, but my father-in-law will be 93 next week. He's still doing great. And between the two sets of parents who some of you may remember always around Mother's Day, both sets would come here. We would get together because sometimes I would just bring it up, on social media or say something. And now that doesn't, we would switch up. Like we would travel there, they would travel here. So we would see each other a few times a year that way. Well, my husband and I have been driving to see both of them. Boy, the miles on my car are jacking up too. So, we usually try to make now, at least a couple of trips a year to see both. So my mom will be able to travel hopefully a little bit more now, but she didn't want to drive by herself. She did drive. That's why her friend also came, but she'll probably fly on future trips. So we'll probably do that maybe in July. And then of course there's the Nordstrom anniversary sale. That's usually like the week after 4th of July. We're not sure what we're doing for that yet. We always talk about going somewhere else. I actually talked about going to Indiana for that this year and shopping in Indianapolis. But since we were just up there, I'm not sure if we'll make it back there or I'll just go to Nashville like normal. That's my closest Nordstrom. I don't know. Sometimes we try to make, a trip out of it. I can tell I am just like rambling as I think of things in this. But again, I just wanted to like sit down, chit chat. I didn't pre-film something last week because my mom and her friend came like on a Tuesday, and I didn't have anything pre-planned from the week before because we were on the cruise and then visiting her. Sometimes I'll pre-film like 2 weeks in a row, other times just a week in, ahead. But with the cruise, I knew I had that video when we got back. And then, it just depends, like I said, but I have a hard time filming when people are in the house. So I try to pre-plan, but there was a lot kind of to prepare going to Indiana too. So that's why I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sit down and chit chat for this week. And we'll hopefully get back to scheduled program next week. Although next week being Memorial Day week and weekend, I'm not quite sure if I'll do that or skip it because I'm not sure how many people are around. Well, I think we're caught up. I can't think of anything. I'm just chit-chatting like you're sitting right here in my bedroom with me. If I think of anything else, maybe I'll put it in the notes section, the description of the video. Like always, if I have anything to link, it'll be linked there. You just do show more and it will open up the drop-down box and link any videos maybe that I've spoken about. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and catching up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.